It's December, which means it is officially holiday season. For Americans, that means a bombardment of Christmas cheer in our stores, on our radio stations, and across our social media feeds. In the US, Christmas tends to dominate the winter holiday season. Christmas is both a religious and cultural holiday in this country, and history, tradition, and a combination of Christian belief and pagan ritual comprise our modern understanding of Christmas. Perhaps it is that combination of religion, history, and culture that lends to this sort of Christmas supremacy. Christmas was declared a federal holiday in the United States in 1870, and so Christmas, as we understand it, has been developing for over 150 years into the commercial celebration it is today. But even with all of the space that Christmas takes up during this time of year, it is not the only holiday occurring during this season. There is so much more happening at this time of year than we may realize across many cultures and religions. Many of the holidays and festivals that occur in December or January, though varied in their traditions and customs, celebrate a particular theme. That is, the return of the light and the journey out of the seasonal darkness that culminates around the time of the winter solstice. Cultures across the world celebrate the return of the sun with themes of charity and goodwill towards the less fortunate, featuring prominently in the various customs and holiday celebrations. I thought it would be fun to take a look at some of the other holidays occurring around this time of year, learning about the celebrations that are occurring around the world opens up our perspectives, which can become understandably narrowed with Christmas splashing all around us. Last week, our congregation learned the history of Hanukkah, and we celebrated in a culturally sensitive way. There is a fine line between learning about different cultures and appropriating those cultures. Today, we'll learn about Diwali, Boxing Day, and Yule. Some of us will have spiritual or cultural ties to one or more of those holidays, and some of us will not. Today's message is not a blanket permission to celebrate any tradition that inspires you, but rather an encouragement to expand your cultural horizons while continuing to exercise the cultural sensitivity Unitarian Universalists pride themselves on. First, let's learn about Diwali. Diwali is the most significant and widely celebrated festival in India, celebrated across cultures and religions throughout the country. Called the Festival of Lights, Diwali lasts 5 days and is marked by the clay lanterns people light outside their homes to light up the night. A simple Google search for Diwali celebration will lead to millions of breathtaking photos of neighborhoods alight in celebration. The origins of the holiday are many, but they all center around a common theme. That is, the belief that light ultimately overcomes darkness and goodness ultimately triumphs over evil. For Hindus in India, the origin stories of Diwali vary across geographic communities, but they all carry a common theme, which is victory following an epic battle of some kind by a human incarnation of the Hindu god Vishnu, regarded as the sustainer of the universe, and whose role it is to restore the balance of good and evil in times of trouble. Buddhists have their own origin stories as well, citing Diwali as the festival celebrating the liberation or enlightenment of historical figures significant to the history of Buddhism. Diwali is also a celebration of the Hindu goddess of wealth and fortune, Lakshmi, and almost all of the celebrations over the 5 days of Diwali incorporate veneration to Lakshmi in some way. In ancient agrarian society, Diwali marked the end of the harvest season and a time to pray to Lakshmi for abundance and good fortune. Today, Indian businesses still consider Diwali to be the first day of the new fiscal year. Just as the origin stories vary from region to region, so too do the customs that mark the festival. Still, each of the 5 days of Diwali has special significance and traditions. On the first day, those who celebrate pray to Lakshmi and clean their homes and decorate the lamps that will illuminate the neighborhoods with colored sand or powder or flower petals. The lamps are then lit on the second day. On the third day, communities gather for festivals of celebration at temples or in people's homes, where they pay homage to Lakshmi and enjoy feasts and fireworks. The third day of Diwali occurs on the darkest day of the year, and lamps are lit to welcome the spirit of Lakshmi, who will bless communities with prosperity and the returning of the light. It is believed that Lakshmi's fortune is transient, and her blessings only remain in places where there is always hard work, sincerity, and gratefulness, and so those virtues feature heavily in the celebrations. The fourth day is typically recognized as the beginning of the new year and is reserved for gift giving with time with family. The fifth day is a time meant to honor one's siblings. Diwali is a festival with many traditions and origin stories, but even in all of its variety, the central themes of good conquering over evil are a common thread through all of them. Boxing Day is celebrated on the day after Christmas. With its origins in the United Kingdom, Boxing Day is celebrated in the UK and in a number of countries that previously formed the British Empire. Once began as a day to offer gifts to the poor, Boxing Day, much like Christmas, has now become largely commercialized. It is now largely considered to be a shopping holiday, with sales and special events occurring in shopping malls all over the place on December 26th. However, in the last decade or so, Canadian retailers started to notice Canadians were traveling across the border to the US for Black Friday deals. This caused Canada and eventually the UK to shift towards Black Friday sales themselves, even though they don't celebrate Thanksgiving at the same time we do in the United States, or even in the same way, because they were seeing a decline in shopping revenue on Boxing Day. It's interesting because as Black Friday declines as a consumer holiday in the US, it seems to be growing in popularity across the pond. But if one of the side effects of this trend is a return to more traditional Boxing Day customs, then perhaps it is not an entirely negative evolution. Traditionally, Boxing Day was meant as a time for employers or the wealthy to show gratitude to their employees and servants by gifting them Christmas boxes, which contained food, gifts, and most importantly, cash. Christmas boxes first appear, to our knowledge, in the 1600s and continued throughout this day. Typically, these boxes were gifted to the servant class on the day after Christmas because they were expected to serve the families they worked for on Christmas Day. December 26th was a day off for the working and servant class. In modern times, the wealthy upper class in some countries that celebrate Boxing Day have actually banned the practice of working class folks asking for Christmas boxes. Interesting how this holiday that began as a day to uplift the poor and celebrate the working class has evolved into over-commercialization and an overt rejection of the origins of the holiday. It makes me curious about these cultural evolutions. I have to wonder, how has American Christmas influenced shifting Boxing Day traditions across the pond? And how might all of us return to the roots of these celebrations, where generosity, charity, and goodwill are central themes? Now, Yule is a holiday that is familiar to many Unitarian Universalists because it is a pagan and Wiccan holiday. Yule is celebrated on December 21st, the shortest day of the year, also known as the winter solstice, or the day when the darkness begins to recede and the daylight grows a little more each day following. Yule has its origins with the Germanic people, with venerations to the Old Norse god Odin at the center of the celebrations. Norse mythology associates Odin with wisdom, healing, death, royalty, knowledge, war, battle, victory, sorcery, and poetry, among many other things. And many Yule celebrations include telling stories with Odin at the center. Ancient Yule celebrations often culminated in an animal sacrifice, but modern celebrations focus much more on the eating, drinking, and merriment aspects of the holiday. Feasts, storytelling, and warm, cozy fires feature most prominently at Yule parties. You've probably heard of the Yule Log, a log burned through the night of the 21st. The burning of the Yule Log is meant to bring good fortune into the new year, and celebrants are encouraged to save a piece of the charred log to kindle next year's fire. Yule altars with candles and winter greenery are also common, as are wreaths and Yule trees. In fact, many historians believe that the Yule tree precedes the Christmas tree, and we all know that many Christian traditions find their roots in paganism. The magic of the dark winter season swirls throughout Yule, with praise for the season of darkness and hibernation, balanced with the revelatory welcome of the returning light. Bonfires, decadent food, abundant ale, and uninhibited celebrations make up the Yule party. Yule, perhaps much more effectively than Christmas, blends the religious and cultural aspects of the holiday together, weaving revelry and veneration. Especially at the setting and rising of the sun, prayers and exaltations are expected, like this prayer, meant to be chanted with force and merriment as the sun is setting. See the gray skies overhead, preparing the way for the bright sun soon to come. See the gray skies overhead, preparing the way for the world to awake once more. See the gray skies overhead, preparing the way for the longest night of the year. See the gray skies overhead, preparing the way for the sun to finally return, bringing with it her light and her warmth. If you are pagan or Wiccan, or you practice earth-centered spirituality, consider incorporating Yule celebrations into your holiday season. I hope you all heard something of interest this morning. Perhaps you'll consider incorporating some of the traditions you've heard about today into your holiday celebrations this year. Many of us often feel overwhelmed or fatigued by the Christmas cheer we're all subject to at this time of year. Whether this is because we don't celebrate Christmas ourselves, or you're disturbed by the over-commercialization of the holiday, or because the season comes on too fast and is over too soon, I encourage you to expand your awareness beyond this country and its holiday customs. Consider the billions of people around the world who, just like us, are yearning for the return of the light during a season of darkness.